And you have something in here that is... Okay, I'm going to start that whole thing over because I didn't notice that until just now. Okay. In July 2020, a sealed, graded copy of Super Mario Bros. On the original Nintendo Entertainment System sold at auction for $114,000. And that was a lot of money. But in April 2021, another graded copy sold at auction for $660,000. And that was crazy. But in August 2021, Super Mario Bros. Sold at auction for $2 million. And that was just controversial. Reading headlines like these may leave you wondering if that old box of games in your attic is actually a gold mine. Like all things collectibles, the answer to that question is that it's complicated. In today's video, my buddy Jonathan's coming over and he's bringing his N64 collection with him. We're gonna go through it piece by piece and find out together if what's made of plastic might be more valuable than gold. Jonathan texted me a photo a while back and said, hey, I found these games. What do you think these N64 games are worth? Oh, you might wanna comb your hair before we get started.
I'll get working on it.
What would you estimate it's worth based on having very little knowledge of the retro market?
Yeah, I mean, maybe $100.
We're gonna look through the lot together,
okay,
and I'm gonna tell you if I were to buy it, what I would offer you, what would be the best ways to go about selling it if you were to sell it, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun with what you're gonna do with all of this stuff.
Sounds good.
The Nintendo 64 console with one controller, a fair market price is usually about $100 right now, just for the console.
Wow.
But there are things that make it actually more valuable and a little less valuable. Number one, I'm going to look at the condition. The condition of your console is a little rough. We've got a chipped piece right here. Now, did you take this with you to like concerts or what?
It sat in my room for years and played it pretty regularly.
Yep.
And then ended up getting married and moving out, and somehow it got left at my parents' house, and grandkids and stuff.
Yeah.
I think just put it through the ringer.
Now you have two chips here. There's this one here at the front, and then in the back, as you can see, it's broken out in the back. But these things are beasts.
I did test it out a while ago, and it definitely still plays.
The second thing that I look for is I always flip open the hood to see, and you've got one. This little red mark here. Do you remember what this is?
No.
This is the expansion pack. The expansion pack was required for a couple of games like Donkey Kong 64 and Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. Most games didn't require it, only a couple did, but a handful of games really benefited from it. This by itself, if I just pulled this out and popped it on Amazon or eBay, it would sell for between $40 and $50. So that already ups your value.
Yeah.
Now, but because the console's broken up a little bit, you're basically staying around the $100 range because of these broken pieces of plastic. The third thing I'm looking for, I want to know if the cables you have are made by Nintendo. This is, as you can see, it's got the Nintendo symbol on it right there. That is a good sign because the Nintendo made stuff really holds up and stands the test of time.
The AV cable is aftermarket.
It is aftermarket. Now you can usually see because they say Nintendo here and there's a little bit thicker than the other ones. Now, but these still probably work just fine, right? You also have a memory card. This is an off-brand one. The N64 memory cards were notoriously small in size, and so these third-party ones gave you a lot more space to save your games. Now here's the next thing I'm looking for, which is in the controllers. Are these original or aftermarket? And these are both original. Now most of the joysticks on the N64 are so loose that they're virtually, if not entirely, unplayable. This is a really tight joystick. People would pay you about 15, maybe 20 bucks for this controller. The thing with the N64 is that there were so many different controllers with so many different color variants that the gray ones are desirable because there's a nostalgic connection, but people, like collectors like me, really look for those different color variants.
Sure.
You've probably got about $125, maybe $120 worth of value just on your console.
That's pretty crazy.
That's pretty crazy, right? Collectability wise, the N64 is super desirable right now. So most of these games sell really fast. We're looking not only at what the sold listing is, but I gotta subtract out shipping, which is about $4 a game. I gotta subtract out the materials, which is usually about $1 each game. And then eBay's gonna take about 15% of that off the top for fees as well. First is Nagano Winter Olympics. A fun game, just not a very desirable game. Kobe Bryant NBA Courtside, completely eclipsed by modern sports games, and the sequel on the N64 is a lot better. Another sports title, Ken Griffey Jr.'s Slugfest. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, one of the best games on the console. Do you have memories of playing this game?
I do, and for whatever reason, when you've entered into the X-Wing, that was the hardest level for me, and I don't know why.
And this game is notoriously challenging. If you are looking to get an N64 in these games again, this is a cheap game that is really worth picking up to the collection. We're gonna look at a couple of, I'm gonna call them uncommon titles. One of those is the new Tetris. This one has a tear right in the middle of it, unfortunately. Anywhere from $19 to $26. So I'm gonna say 20 bucks. Load Runner 3D. This is not a terribly well-reviewed game.
To be honest, I don't recall playing it all that much.
Are you gonna start being honest now?
Which means yes, for the first time.
Perfect Dark is a classic. It was the spiritual sequel to GoldenEye. Did you play this game very much?
I did,
yeah,
and for that reason, because I love GoldenEye.
And what'd you think of Perfect Dark?
I enjoyed it,
yeah,
and I played it a lot, but not nearly as much as GoldenEye.
That is the generational review of this game.
Okay.
I did enjoy it. I just didn't play it as much as GoldenEye. If you have an Xbox 360 or an Xbox One, you can actually play an HD version of this game on that right now.
Oh, that's cool.
Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is a fantastic game. It's better on, I think, the Dreamcast and maybe even the PS1 because the soundtrack on that would play the full games. The N64 actually couldn't hold the soundtrack. So far, John, what do you think of the values that we're finding?
I mean, honestly, I'm shocked.
Okay.
Like, it's surprising to me.
Now we're getting into some stuff. If you have been holding on, we're about to go on an adventure. Did you play this game at all?
I did, as long as my parents weren't home.
Doom 64 is not the PC version of the game. It's its own thing that was made for the Nintendo 64. And critics at the time were kind of like, yeah, we want new stuff like GoldenEye. Nintendo first-party titles are what we all loved back then. Let's start with one of the staples of the N64, which is Mario Kart 64. Everyone who has an N64 has to have a copy of this game.
Of course.
It's great. Now here's the challenge. Because of that, there's reproductions. Reproductions are when people make what looks to be an exact copy of Mario Kart 64 that was made back then, but it's a reproduced game with a reprinted label that's not authentic. Most people will say, I just want to play the game.
Right.
And they'll spend $10 or $20 on Amazon and get the remade ones. I think the best game on the system, maybe of all time, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This game was just hype when it came out.
I love that game.
Yeah.
To this day. There was something about when you got the harmonica type instrument.
Yeah, the ocarina.
And you could play it and then call your horse.
Epona.
Yeah, which was so cool. And it made the Zelda world so much bigger.
Some of the sold listings say $70. That's because there's an all gold cartridge. That one is a little more valuable. Now we're going to get into the other Zelda game. Majora's Mask was not as fondly remembered by most people, but how about for you?
Other than having that mask like sucked to your face, I mean, there's nothing much that I remember about that game.
Do you remember the giant moon staring at you as it's coming to bring apocalypse?
Vaguely.
Yeah. Nintendo, to their credit, took a risk, I think, creatively to try and give us something different. This game, though, just wasn't nearly as popular, but it is still very popular to collect for. There's a category in game libraries called Hidden Gems, which is basically some people loved the game and thought it was great, and they sort of have this cult following around the game. You have one of those Hidden Gems in this pile.
Okay.
This is actually kind of shocking that you have this. And that is Ogre Battle 64. What do you remember of Ogre Battle 64?
Honestly, nothing. I don't even know why I have it.
Okay, it's like a strategy role-playing game.
Okay.
Did you play many of those kinds of games?
Yeah.
Not a lot of copies are produced, and it's made by this company, Atlas. If you dig out your old games and you see that logo on it, you might look up the value because you might be sitting on a very valuable game. There's a bunch of solds for $120. I'm going to say $115.
That's crazy.
We've gone a little over the $100 estimate,
Just
right?
a little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit. One of the most collectible things on the console is when people had a particular variant of the cartridge that had a sign on it that says not for resale.
Okay.
You have one of those.
Oh.
Now, the regular version of this game is worth, I'm going to guess, like $50 or so. But Mario Party 3, not for resale, that actually might be worth quite a bit more. Before you look it up, what would you just guess, just from that little bit of information?
Well, I mean, he said the originals were $50, so I mean, I'll just get crazy and double it and say 100.
Okay. Unfortunately, getting crazy in today's retro market needs to be a little crazier than that.
Wow.
What are you seeing on solds there, John?
228, 170, 228. Yeah, I mean 250 almost, 276.
You've got some sticker damage on this. It looks like it can clean up. How did you come across this?
I'm guessing that was like a Blockbuster type, you know, game bin that I bought it from.
These two games alone are worth $325.
That's, I mean, I don't want to say ridiculous, but pretty incredible.
What would you do with $700 right now?
Probably stock it away to start helping pay for my kid who just graduated high school and is off to college.
Now, you've got a couple of options here, John. You could sell this to a collector like me. I would probably pay you about 60% the value. Most stuff I spend between 40 and 50% the value because I don't know how it's going to sell, but N64 is selling so strongly right now that at 60%, I just know that I'm going to get my money back real quick. These games would sell for me if I sold them today within about a week. Then what I would probably do is, because I don't have the not for resale, I would sell basically everything, pocket some cash for myself, keep the not for resale as a little trophy for my collection, and that is how I've built my collection. The other thing you can do is you can throw it up on OfferUp right now. I think that if you put this up right now on OfferUp for $600, you would probably get 3 or 4 messages of offers right away.
Wow.
And you could probably get people bidding you up. I think you could put it up at $700 and you would probably still, you might get a buyer because you have Ogre Battle and because you have Mario not for resale. The other thing that you could do is you could take it to a game shop. Game shop is probably going to give you a decent amount. Game shops they're businesses that are trying to make money.
Sure.
For most folks, it's a great way to just offload your stuff and be done with it. And they've got value calculators that are already built into their systems. The other thing is you could go on eBay and sell it yourself. The problem with that is you could end up having some people try and rip you off. You might have some games that break and you got to deal with customer service, or it gets lost in shipping. And so it's a little extra work on your part, but it might be worth it in the end. If you were to make a choice right this minute, Jonathan, what would you do?
I mean, right this minute, just because of the ease,
you would just give me Mario Party not for resale, and then you would take off.
I would think I'd list it just as a lot on like OfferUp. Only because I've sold other things on there, so I'm familiar. And yeah, OfferUp's not going to take a bunch of percentages like eBay and such.
No, you have the risk of a high value item like this, so you'd have to meet someone at like a bank or a police station or whatever, but you're a big boy, you can handle yourself. I guarantee if you put this on OfferUp for any amount, you would probably get about 10 messages in the first 2 hours.
Okay.
Maybe more.
Yeah, and then worst case scenario, I would take you up on the offer so you could build your collection as a goodwill.
I appreciate that as the worst case scenario, by the way. That's very sweet of you. Jonathan brought his collection over. I'm glad you did, man.
I'm shocked.
I appreciate you coming on the channel and being a willing participant in this little experiment here.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was fun. I think you wanted more.
I thought you were going to say another sentence. While many of us have items of value hidden away in that old box of childhood games or toys, the odds of us having something newsworthy are quite low and dependent on a number of complex factors. And yet, whatever the monetary value may be of those childhood items, nothing is more valuable than the joy that comes from the memories they leave with us. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your day.